Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Amish Rebel podcast. Greatly appreciate you guys watching and supporting us on this journey. And today we're going to get into the conversation of different denominations amongst the Amish. Some of you may not know, but there's many different denominations amongst the Amish communities, and we just wanted to make a video kind of explaining what that looks like in the Amish community and what the different denominations are called. There's even more denominations that what we're wanting to, what we're able to discuss, because there's just slight differences within those denominations. But I have Lamina with me today, and we're going to have a great conversation about these different communities. And I hope you enjoy this video. Today's video is also sponsored by the Amish Roofer. So if you're in the DFW area, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to serve you in any way we can with that. Again, today's video is sponsored by the Amish Roofer, and thank you for tuning in. And so you want to start us off, Lamina, by just talking about, we obviously come from the Swartz and Trooper Amish, if you're not aware already. If you haven't been following the channel, if you're new to this channel, thank you for tuning in. And we both come from a community called the Swartz and Trooper Amish community, which is the, why don't you explain to the audience who the Swartz and Troopers are? And
they're the lowest level of Amish, and there's obviously levels in the Swartz and Trooper, but they're the lowest level that you can go. And so if you go from church to church, each church has different rules. And the church that I grew up with, like, they could have headlights, for instance. The church my husband grew up in, he was Swartz and Trooper Amish too, they couldn't have headlights. So there's just these minor little, some of them can have coffee mugs. Some of them have coffee mugs. Like, it's just these minor little details.
Wait, they can't have coffee mugs?
No, your church used to not be able to have coffee mugs.
I forgot about that. You're right.
And I even know the reason why, which is kind of a weird reason, but still. The reason they can't have coffee mugs is because a lot of them like to put alcohol in them instead of coffee, so it would hide the alcohol. Yeah. So they outlawed the coffee mugs.
So we were allowed to have a thermos.
Yeah,
right?
but not a coffee mug.
But not a coffee, like not an actual coffee mug, which is just crazy.
A lot of people don't use coffee, like actual coffee mugs. Or you don't, like, coming out of the Amish, everybody, or me, from my church, everybody had coffee mugs. Tons of them.
Yeah.
And you don't see, it would kind of be like those Stanley cups, except it would have a different lid where you drink out instead of sip out.
Yeah.
And they're not that fancy color and everything. And Stanley used to be a men's brand, kind of, but they kind of branched out. But, yeah. Our church could have coffee mugs. Your church was not supposed to. I think they can now, but they couldn't. And they also used to not be able to have headlights. Dad still remembers when they let them have headlights. I remember
that. We were allowed to have the light piece of a headlight, but we were not allowed to have the elastic band that goes around your head, which is crazy. And really what it comes down to is convenience. It would be too convenient just to put the headlight on, I think, and the elastic band. So we were not allowed to have a stretchable band because suspenders that had stretchable material, we wouldn't have been allowed to have that, or belts anything elastic. So that's part of the reason why I think you weren't allowed to have the headlight band. But also the other part is like convenience. I mean, anything that becomes real convenient is like, no, we're not having that. Kind of like this kerosene lantern that's in front of us right here. That's, you could buy these with a battery in the bottom, and it's just a light, an LED light. Well, we were not allowed to have that. We were only allowed to have a kerosene lamp. You put the kerosene in here, and then you light the lamp, and this is a real lamp, so you can see the light. That's a real light, and this is what we would carry around. We would hang it up in the barn to give us light at night while we're doing chores.
And then they use those in the buggies.
Yeah,
they
they
make
use
little steel boxes with plexiglass windows for the light to get out.
And that's kind of, I guess, to your point, that's the difference between a Swartz and Trooper Amish community and a non-Swartz and Trooper Amish community. Is like the Swartz and Troopers are real strict on what they can and can't have, and there's not nearly as many modern conveniences. For example, if you see a buggy on the road and there's a real dim light and there's a box with a lamp in it like that, but it's a real dim light, some of you may run into them because you didn't see them because they're that dim, or they blew out along the way and they're just driving without a light. But like the let's go to the Old Order Amish. We're skipping a few, but if we go to the Old Order Amish, they have like these bright LED lights and they look like cars. That's the difference between a Swartz and Trooper buggy and an Old Order community buggy. So for some of you, you may not have even realized there's a difference, but that's how you can tell which community they're from.
And Old Order buggies are also a lot more fancy.
Oh yeah, they're way more decked out. They have like storm fronts and
it was surprising. Someone left a comment recently saying something about Swartz and Trooper versus Old Order, or they asked a question or something, and I said they're probably Old Order Amish and they're more advanced, and they're like, wait, aren't Old Order like stricter than Swartz and Trooper? Like, no, I don't know where you got that from, but they're not.
Yeah, it's kind of backwards, to be honest with you, because the Old Order, and we say the lowest of Amish because it starts with new order. That's like the new order, and you'll probably be fairly confused at the different denominations by the time I'm talking about this, but hopefully I can make sense in your mind. The new order split off of the New Order, which the new order you would think are not as religious, but they are a little bit more religious than the New Order. The New Order are in some cases stricter than the Old Order. Mm-hmm. The Old Order, they have differences, like different modern conveniences. And one of them would be the New Order could have a tractor, and some of the Old Order are not allowed to have a tractor.
Yeah.
And then you go to what's called a Dan Church. I don't know why they call it Danner Church, but they're in between the Old Order and the Swartz and Trooper. And whether you like it or not, I mean, a lot of the Amish that are, once you have a little bit more modern conveniences, they look down on the communities that don't have as many modern conveniences. So for example, the Old Order have a little bit more modern conveniences, but they look down on the Swartz and Troopers because the Swartz and Troopers aren't as educated in most of the cases, and they aren't as advanced, and they don't associate with the outside world near as much as the Old Order do.
Sometimes I wonder if the Old Order are more lenient when it comes to shunning.
The Old Order, in some cases, I believe, and I can only speak from I didn't grow up in that community, so I don't know how I'm sure it varies from community to community, but I have heard that in some cases, if they go from Old Order to, let's say, a Mennonite community, and a Mennonite community is not Amish, so we can clarify that. A lot of people think that they're Amish people. They're not. They're just very religious in the way they do things. So they're very organized, just like the Amish, but they drive vehicles, they drive cars, and they have most modern conveniences. Their women dress more conservatively, like they dress with a dress instead of jeans or anything like that.
Older women wear little coverings.
A lot of them wear coverings, but the Mennonites, in some cases, if you leave the Old Order community and you get out and you join a group of Mennonites, they may not shun you.
Yeah, which we should clarify. If you leave one denomination of Amish and join a different one after you're baptized, you will more than likely get shunned.
That's coming from the Swartz and Troopers.
Yes, from the Swartz and Troopers.
Yep,
like, if you leave the Swartz and Trooper denomination, go to Old Order or New Order, they don't care that you're still Amish. You're still going to get shunned.
Yeah. And why should you care about all this? I don't know. I guess maybe you don't care about all this.
I have a little shunning story. So we all know that I hadn't joined church when I left the Amish, so I supposedly can't get shunned.
Yeah.
I can get shunned. Matter of fact, I got shunned. My husband's grandpa died last weekend, and they're very, very strict Swartz and Trooper Amish. We went to that funeral. And I got shunned.
No way.
They thought I had joined church before I left the Amish, and they shunned me. They wouldn't even talk to me.
Wow.
When I stuck with Eli the whole day, not the whole day, but in the morning and after the service. And after the service, they would come talk to Eli when we were both there, and they would talk about me as if I was in a different room. They wouldn't even look at me.
Dude, that is crazy.
After the service, I had wanted to. Originally, Eli was like, we're not going to go to the cemetery. But I was so afraid he would regret it if he didn't. Mm-hmm. But I was like, fine, if you don't want to, I'm not going to say anything. And I didn't. And then after the service, they asked him if he wants to. And he was like, well, I mean, if there's room, can Levina come too? And they didn't even acknowledge his question. They were like, there's room in the buggy for one more. And he left, and they never, they didn't even offer me the chance to go along. And no one offered me lunch. There were people there from my community, so no one from their community, the funeral was in Nebraska, no one from their community offered me lunch. But then someone from my community, where I grew up, where they know I'm not shunned, came up to me when I was standing there and was like, you better help yourself to the food before it's all gone. So I went and ate lunch. I went to the table. As soon as I walked up to the table to start eating, everybody else left the table. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, they're probably all of a sudden all done eating. And I ate and left the table. And then people started eating again. Okay,
to clarify, for those that don't know, the reason why they left the table is because the Amish believe when you're shunned, they treat you a certain way. So one of the ways is they don't eat at the same table you eat at. So
you don't exist. I mean, I was feeling so horrible by the time I was all over. I was like, these people just hate me. It all started when we got word that Eli's grandpa died. One of his friends, one of the guys from his Amish community, called him on one of their English friends' phones.
Yeah.
Called Eli and told him that his grandpa passed away, when the funeral's going to be and everything. And then he told Eli that they're not going to be comfortable with me at the funeral. They're like, it's fine, she can come, but they're not going to be comfortable with me there. And that just immediately hurt my feelings. I was like, why would they just make it a point to tell my husband that his wife is not welcome at the funeral?
Yeah.
But I didn't understand any of this. I just assumed they literally just hated me. And then apparently after the phone call, that guy had left a voicemail on my husband's phone saying that they didn't mean to sound harsh, but because I'm shunned and it's such a big crowd, they're afraid someone's going to catch the screen door when I go through, because obviously they can't do that either.
Wow.
And if my husband would have checked his darn voicemails, none of that would have happened, because we could have told them that I'm not shunned, but he didn't check his voicemails. Everybody had heard this rumor that I'm shunned, and they just believed it like it's the gospel truth. And that was, my husband was like, it was an accident, you're fine. I'm like, that was traumatic. He's like, you're fine. I'm like, if someone accidentally kills you, you're still dead. It still hurts, even if it was an accident.
Yeah, that was not a fun experience. But
I'm like, I feel for anybody that is actually shunned. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they try to make it miserable, but
after that experience, I wouldn't want to ever do anything with the Amish again. Because just before we left, then they apologized, and they said that they thought I was shunned. That's why they were treating me
Well,
like that.
and I would say that in their defense, right, it felt harsh to you, but in their defense, and this goes for any group of people, it's what they believe in, so it's what they're going to uphold.
I feel
so
like
if you look at it from that perspective, they have, if they're not staying true to what they believe in, then what's the point in them believing
I feel like a lot of them don't even want to do that.
Sure.
And they just do it because if they don't do it, then they get treated the same way. And nobody wants to do it. They just all participate because they're afraid of each other.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. Peer pressure.
For the service, the funeral itself, they let Eli, my husband, sit with the family in the living room, and they put me out in the kitchen with the non-Amish people.
Oh, wow.
It's like nobody will acknowledge you if you're not, like if you're shunned. Like they, oh my God.
But that's their way of, I mean, not saying it's good. I'm definitely not saying it's good, and it's definitely not a good experience for somebody that is shunned. But that is their belief, and that's their belief system. So if you're a person that's shunned, you're entering into that. I think a lot of people that are shunned, not that it doesn't hurt, it's just they already know how they're going to be treated, because that kind of caught you off guard, right? Because you're not you're not shunned, and you didn't know what was going on.
I just assumed they hate me.
like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I could see how that could be rough. But if somebody is shunned, they're already aware that they're going to be treated that way, so it's a little less dramatic. And in the backing up in the Amish defense, not saying it was right for them to do that. I don't agree with them doing that. But in their defense, if they believe in what that is right for them, then, by all means, they should stick with it. Not that I'm going to participate in it. But yeah, I think I hate that happened, because it could have been a really sweet time with his family. It probably would have been if it wouldn't have been that.
Pretty sure it would have been. I don't know, did his mom know that I wasn't shunned when we left? Because they just found out like 5 minutes before we left.
Wow.
And I don't know, did his mom even hear it? Because it was the guys that found out first. So I don't even know if his mom knew it, that I wasn't shunned. Because when we left, my husband went to say goodbye to his mom. And I went with him. So I was like standing there. And he was like saying goodbye and everything. Like just shook her hand, said goodbye. And then finally, just before my husband turned around to leave, I stuck out my hand too, and she shook it. But she would not offer to shake my. She didn't even say a word to me. So I'm like, I don't know. It's like my family was way more receiving than my husband's family, probably literally because they thought I was shunned.
Sure.
And that's probably why they didn't want him to get married to me in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they discouraged him from getting married to me outside of the Amish church. And I didn't get that either. But they probably all along just thought that I'm shunned.
Guess what they feel about this pig right now? Because after they figured out that you're not shunned, I mean, how...
Oh my... Where did they even get it? I'm like, these Amish and their rumors just drive me up the wall. When I first left the Amish, a rumor got started among the Amish that I left because I was pregnant. I have no...
That's wild. So we're kind of getting off track of what we started with, but I mean that's a great story to kind of summarize the Swartz and Trooper Amish. I mean they are very strict and they take things very seriously.
And if they hear something, if they hear a rumor, they're going to take their chances that rumor is true.
Yes, they are. They're gonna spread that rumor until somebody clarifies it or says no, it's not true, or I don't know. But they really feed off of gossip, and and coming out of that community, it's something that we've definitely had to work on, like not gossiping about people. But that's the Swartz and Trooper. We can speak to that community or about that community because that's the way we grew up. That's what we know. That's what we lived for me, 19 years I lived in that community. I grew up there, and same with you, 18 years. So we know it super well. The rest of the denominations, we know because we have friends in those different denominations. We know it to some extent, but we can't speak to it because we just know the generality of it. But
I know that some of the old order, like Swartz and Trooper, all have their own schools.
Yeah.
And some of the old order do too. But
like the Dan Church. Like the Dan Church, they're like one step above the Swartz and Troopers, basically, and they have their own church or schoolhouses, just like the Swartz and Troopers do.
But a lot of the old order go to public schools.
Yeah, a lot of the old order go to public schools. My in-laws, all their kids went to public school, and the old order is by far the biggest group of Amish people, like Lancaster, Ohio, those areas. Mostly you'll see old order. And when you see the old order, they are very active in society. So that's why you saw all the Amish voting in the election, because the old order got out to vote, and some of them been new order, different, but definitely not the Swartz and Troopers. You wouldn't have seen them get out and vote. But they also they own big businesses. They're the ones that are really in the public eye, so to speak, most of them, because you're not supposed to videotape them, not supposed to take pictures of them, but a lot of them get caught in, just people out taking pictures and stuff like that. Swartz and Troopers are real strict about that.
Yeah.
They don't want any
It's hard
publicity.
hard to catch Swartz and Trooper Amish on camera.
Yeah, because their communities are very closed off.
You don't find them in public near as much unless you're actually driving through the community and it's like a Sunday morning or something where the bookies are out and about.
So now that you have these terminologies, Swartz and Trooper, Dan Church, Old Order, New Order, New Order, you can go out in the public and ask the Amish, what denomination are you from? Are you Old Order? Are you Swartz and Trooper? And you can begin to identify the different groups. And hopefully that'll help you guys, especially those of you that are doing research on the Amish communities. There's more different denominations than we're even naming, but those are the most common, the most popular ones. And then some of them, might tell you, no, we're of this church, and it's a split off of, let's say the Old Order, but they're not New Order, they're just a split off of it. But anyway, hopefully this helps. Hopefully you enjoyed today's conversation. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And we hope to see you in the next video, unless you have something that you want to add.
No.
This has been fun. It's been a fun conversation. And hopefully Levina won't ever get shunned again.
Hopefully not. Make this go viral so all Amish see it.
Yeah. Show your Amish friends if you have some. And I've had a few opportunities along the way too to let people know that I'm not shunned, and because they assume that you are shunned because my last name they automatically know used to be Amish, because last name Hirschberger, and so I've had some opportunities along the way to just tell people I'm not shunned, and it's weird how they respond when they find out that you're not, because they're very standoffish when they think that you're shunned, and then they find out you're not, and all of a sudden you're like their best friend, or not their best friend, but you're friends. Anyway, again, thank you for commenting, liking, sharing the video, and we greatly appreciate all of our followers. And we appreciate the kind comments that you guys have been leaving, encouraging us to continue making these videos. And sometimes that's just enough to get us to make another video. We appreciate that. We'll see you in the next video.